gentlemen, welcome. My name is Andrea, and in this video, I will go through how to create two different data flows. This is if one of your tables needs a lookup or a reference to another table. I will go through how to merge queries where the primary key columns do not match. Data flows are a great way to migrate data from many different database systems. In this example, I will be using data from Excel, but the scenario is similar to what might happen with data coming from two different databases. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter, and let's get started. In this example, we will have two different tables in Dataverse. One for data that will come directly from the HR database, and the other will be our local person table, which will have a lookup to that HR table. Ideally, the HR table will be updating on a daily basis with data coming directly from the company's HR database, so that our application's person table is always up to date with the latest changes and updates to the person. Here I am using an Excel sheet to demo the example, but the same steps can be taken if you were using SQL. You'll notice that the HR person table on the top has 4 more rows than the person table below. You'll also notice that our HR person table, we have personnel number as our primary key, and in our person table, we have ID as our primary key. We will not be able to use these columns to merge our tables in the data flow. We will have to use alias since both tables share this column and alias is unique to the person. Let's get started on creating these tables with their respective columns in Dataverse. I am reusing the solution for the feedback app to create these new tables to show you the demo for the data flows. So to create the new tables, we'll create new table and give our table the names of our Excel sheet. So this is what my HR person table looks like. I've added 5 different custom fields: HR title, HR last name, full name as the primary name field, HR personnel number as a whole number, and HR first name. This will match exactly what I had in my Excel sheet so that when I go and create the data flows, there is no confusion. I have also created a new table for person that will match exactly the Excel sheet that we created with all of the columns. All of the columns will match exactly, as you can see. The only difference with this table is I've added a lookup field to the HR_person table. That way, when we go into the data flow, we can map this directly. So now that we have saved both of our tables, they should look like this in our solution. We'll now go into the Dataverse tab. We'll click on Data Flows. And we'll first want to import all of the data from the HR person table. And then we'll create a data flow for the person table and then map it to the HR person table. So the first thing we want to do is click on New Data Flow. Give your data flow a name. I named mine Fetch HR Person because this will be doing a fetch from the HR database on a daily basis instead of just copying the data. Since this is an Excel demo, the same would apply, the same functionality and logic would apply if you were using a different database like SQL. So if you were using a database like SQL from Azure, for example, you would go over to the Azure tab and then you would select Azure SQL Database, and then you would fill in all of the information that has to do with that database, including your server and database, and make the connection to that. But since we're going to use Excel, I'm going to go ahead and select Excel Workbook and browse my OneDrive. You'll select the HR person table first, click Next. In my demo, I only have one table available, but yours might have many other tables available. Select the one that is most appropriate. Check the data that you have here, make sure everything and all of the columns are correct, and click Create. This will bring in all of the data that you had in the Excel sheet or the SQL database or any other database that you have. We'll leave all of this data as is for now. We want to just push the first set of data into our Dataverse to get that set up. So we'll click Next. We're going to select Load to Existing Table. And we're going to go and find our HR person table that we created in Dataverse. And now we're going to do some mapping. So because we named everything the same as our table in the Excel sheet, this will be an easy process. We don't have anything for full name in the Excel sheet, so we'll actually go ahead and leave this blank. We do have HR first name, we have HR last name. If we wanted to merge first and last name, we could actually do that in the Dataflow for full name. So personnel number and title. We're going to click Publish. And we're going to let this run for a bit. You can check the refresh history by clicking the 3 dots. As we can see, it is in progress, but if you want to see the refresh history, you'll click that 3 dots and then History. If your Dataflow fails, this is where you can go to download the history file, which will tell you what errors there are in your Dataflows. Once your Fetch HR Person Dataflow is complete, we'll want to create the Person Dataflow now. If you're copying the data over from your previous database for the first time, this will likely be a one-time process of just copying over the data. The Fetch HR Person will likely be a daily Fetch HR Person. You can set that to refresh on a daily basis at a time of your choice. There we go. Same idea here. We'll select the person table this time. Looks right. Click Transform Data. We'll want to give this table a different name instead of Sheet 1. It's more descriptive. So what I do is I go ahead and copy this table and do Control V. This will basically just copy the same table. I'll go into source. Well, first I'll change the name. I'll go into source of the second table. If it's the same database, your table should show up here, but since it's 2 separate, then we're gonna go ahead and click this little tool icon, browse, and select our first again. Click OK. Select that, table under data, select insert. This will populate everything from the HR person table. And now we're actually going to go back to the person table and we're going to merge the queries based on alias because, as I mentioned previously, in the person table we have ID as the primary key, and in HR person we have personnel number, so we won't be able to create that lookup using those. We'll use alias. So we'll go into the combine section and we'll select merge queries. You'll want to select alias instead of ID, and you'll select the HR person table to merge and also select alias. click OK. From here, we want to click the little arrows next to HR person. And we'll want to bring in the personnel number because that is what's going to match the HR person primary key. All right, so now that we have that into our person table, this will match directly into our HR person table. That way we can create that lookup mapping. So we'll click next, and the first thing you want to do right off the bat is click on the HR person table and select do not load. If you do not do this step, it will create a whole new table for HR person, and we do not want that. So click on do not load and go back to the person table. You'll click load to existing table, similar process as the other one, and you'll look for that person table. All right, just going to adjust this so you can see it. Same process, we've named the columns very similar to what was in the Excel sheet. Full name, we'll leave that as blank. ID, we'll bring that in. Last name, organization, and title. All right, so one step that I forgot to do, thank you for your patience, is we have to add keys to both of the tables that we created. So I went ahead and created a key for the person table using the ID field. And now I'm going to do the same thing for HR person. So we go down to keys, we'll click add key. And I'm going to go ahead and use the personnel number, save that table. So now that we have those keys created, we'll go back to the data flows. Your person data flow should already be there. So you'll click on the three dots, click edit. This should have been saved with your personnel number in the person table. Click next. Ensure that HR person is do not load. Click on load to existing table for person. Look for your person table, and there is our lookup. So key step to all of this is ensuring that we have those keys. Same process, we go through and add all of these, leave full name blank, and we'll actually have that HR person to HR personnel number because we added it to the person table in the data flow. If we hadn't done that, we wouldn't have somewhere to match it. All right, so we should be good to go here. We'll click publish. And as you saw, our key columns at the top were added. And we'll leave this to progress. So now that the data flows have finished, I am back at the person table. I've adjusted the active people view to display only the columns that I wanted. And as you can see here, we have HR personnel number from the HR person table populating the correct personnel number to the correct person. So this data has been mapped in the data flow and is now being displayed here. You can also add this lookup in the model-driven app to be able to look up to the HR person from the person table. And then if you want data to populate from the HR person in the person table, we can create a quick view form that I can go over in another video. I appreciate you following along. I hope this video was helpful in your Dataflow journey. Until next time.